Hi guys, so I'm just working on my latest little drawings, a little BMX dude who'd probably be hanging out at the skate park and just, imagine him lining up, getting ready to do a really cool stunt. I just wanted to share a couple of tips that I do, even though I'm not a professional artist, I do enjoy doing artwork. But some of the things that I do, which might help you out. So generally with my drawings, I'll always start off with a grey lead sketch. So it's just a HB pencil. I like to do that because when I'm not happy with something, I can quickly erase it. And as you can see, there's a lot of eraser dust on this one. I can quickly erase it and realign it and get it to a level that I'm happy with. Once I'm happy with the pencil drawing, then I'll trace it with either a fine line pen like this one, which is a 0.4, or I've got some Copic marker multi-liner pens, and one of these is a brush stroke pen, which is quite good for doing hair with. And then once I'm happy with that, I'll add in the shades of colours, and I usually use these Copic markers here, Copic Chow markers, D6 colour one. These are expensive, but you can buy the refills. So the refills are expensive, but it'll let your markers last a very long time. But I had a couple of markers that had nibs that were a bit damaged, so I bought a couple of extra markers to replace. So yeah, like I said, they are expensive, but they will last a very long time and do a lot of drawing with them. I have done a lot of drawing with them. Yeah, so let's take a quick look at what I was just talking about. So with my drawing, starting up here, I like to come down this way because I tend to find I don't smudge it because I don't bring my hand over it. When I get to a point where I'm comfortable there, coming down, I'll actually come down to this point here and I'll come up. And because I'm tracing it, I'm going to meet. Now, obviously other artists can have probably got techniques and they can actually do the whole thing like that, but I tend to find that keeps my hand off the ink and prevents me from smudging it. And then I can do his little helmet clip here. I'm not too worried if I get, little bits here and there, not straight or even. Drawing's meant to be fun. Make your mistakes. Sometimes your mistakes work out for the best. Now, a lot of the time I prefer to work from the top down, again, because that keeps my hand out of the ink if I'm going back up. And usually with this ink in these sort of pens or in the Copic markers, they need a little bit of time to dry. They can smudge. You notice it a lot with ballpoint pens. If you're sketching with those, you'll end up getting ink smudges. Yeah, if you just take your time, let the ink dry, and then you can go over it where you're up to. But I tend to find that if you're pushing the pen, you'll tend to struggle, whereas pulling the pen is a bit easier. So and like I said, don't worry if you get a little line out of whack. Sometimes it's nice just to, that'll actually add in a little bit of jaw definition onto him. Now, I got to there and I don't feel comfortable going up any further because I feel like I'm pushing the pen and I want to pull the pen. It's easier. So I'll bring it down. Okay. And you'll see I've got his little ear line there. And his ear line just in there. Alright. And same goes here, I tend to find if I angle the pen towards the centre of the page, on the eyebrows, I can find it really easy to go up. And his helmet's sort of blocking over his eyebrow a little bit. So it gives you this little funny look like, yeah, I'm going to do a really awesome trick. Watch this. You know, as you get older, it's more like, hey, hold my beer. When you're a kid, it's like, hey, hold my can of soda. I'm going to, if you're an American, or, you know, yeah, hold me drink if you're a little Aussie. So, I think if you're a bike rider of any sort and you're with your mates and you're trying to ride and it's like, oh, check this out, I can do this. And your mates will laugh at you anyway, whether you do it right or not. Whether you get it right or not, they tend to have a good time. As long as you're not hurt, it's generally pretty good. Yeah, sometimes you get a little bit hurt, but you tend to hurt your dignity a bit more than you hurt yourself. Yeah, with doing the eyes, same thing, because I've got this little swirl where his, muscles are swirled in. I want to pull the pen. I don't want to push it down into it. Right, so I will start even here, because I've angled the pen slightly. I still feel like I'm pulling the pen and not trying to push it so much. Here, up the end here, because I'm not hyperextending my hand, I don't feel like I'm pushing the pen. I feel like it's still more of a pull than a pushing action. So normally I'd start off with the left eye, or what's on my left, but like I say, I can just wait for the ink to dry. Like I say, don't worry if you miss the grey lead a little bit. I'm actually going to rub out the grey lead line afterwards, and when I add in the colour after I've rubbed out the grey lead, it really makes the drawings pop. Trying to draw a straight line. Oh my goodness, how much do you have to practice? You have to practice a lot. Hence the reason why straight edges were invented. If I use, say this is a divider for the Copic markers. If I use this as a straight edge, because it's flat underneath, if I place that there to use it, and then I use the marker, it's going to bleed underneath this and will smudge all over that artwork. So, to try and get as straight a line as possible, the reason why I do it in grey lead first is it gives me the guideline, but I'll just go in small sections. I won't do it all in one hit. Now, this can make your drawing look a little dotty. Or the other option is, if you do have a ruler that has a curve on it, flip the ruler over so you get that little bit of a gap, and then make sure you hold it firmly, and then you can rule along the edge. As you can see with this particular marker, it has it goes into a metal point before it gets to the nib, and that's really good for lining up on a straight edge that has a gap underneath to prevent your marker from bleeding under it. But if you don't have one of those, do your grey lead line first, and then just do it in small sections and try and meet up the dots as best you can. Okay? So, and I tend to bring it towards me, because that way I can see the line. Now, this is a cartoon. I'm not overly worried about it being perfectly straight, but it is nice to be as straight as possible. I'll go to where I'm comfortable. I'll shift my hand. I'll continue. Shift my hand. Okay. Yeah, it's not absolutely perfect, but it's pretty darn good, and it'll do for a cartoon. Okay, so that's my tip for if you only have straight edges but you don't want them to cause the marker to bleed underneath them. and you don't have a ruler or some way of raising that edge up. Now, what you can do is, if you don't have a ruler, but you do have a straight edge, and you've got some masking tape, put a couple of layers of masking tape under it and raise that edge up. And that way you can prevent that. Otherwise, just use the method I just showed you and you can do your straight line. And like I said, just take it in small increments. Don't worry about going the whole length of it because you've got to move your hand because you'll only get to a certain point. So let's watch that again. And there you go. Okay. So a reasonably straight line. Okay. Without a ruler. Well, when you're using the marker anyway. Anyway, that's a handy tip that I do when I can't be bothered digging out an actual ruler, because I do actually have actual rulers. And I'm sure most of you do too. But if you want to get better at drawing, pick up a pen, pick up a bit of paper, a pencil and an eraser. Start drawing. Even if you're only doing stick figures, at least you're drawing. Draw a line, do a scriggle. Just get yourself started and see what you can make. So there you go, everyone. That's the outline of a little BMX Dude done. So, I want it to be a little rough. I'm not worried about looking for perfection in this. He's a scrappy little kid. He's had a few stacks on his bike. His bike's going to be a little bit dinged up and scratched anyway. Believe me, I know mine are. They're all sitting there behind, all beat up. So, trust me, when you're riding a BMX or a scooter or mountain bikes, you're not going to have the most prestigious paintwork on your bikes unless you go around respraying them all the time. So, yeah. But, yeah. As far as it goes when it goes into shading, me personally, I like to use the lighter colours first and then bring the darker colours over the top when I'm shading. This black I've found, along with these blacks, once they're done, tend not to bleed. Now, the beauty of using Copic markers with Copic markers is if you have a blending pad, you can actually get the colours to blend in a little bit. This is not a blending pad, and this sort of paper, it'll bleed through, whereas on a blending pad tends not to bleed through the paper. And on this paper, it doesn't blend as well. With this sort of paper, lighter colours first, darker colours last. That's how I would use on this sort of paper. On the blending paper, the beauty of the Copic markers is you can go light over dark or dark over light, doesn't matter. Yeah. Just thought I'd show you a little thing I'm doing with the Copic markers. Now, because this paper bleeds, I can have a really cool effect if I stop colouring and go back to it. And just creating this sort of line graphic like you see here, I can create a reasonably cool little effect on his helmet. It's just been marbled a little bit on different sides. So yeah, this is a brush stroke tip that I'm using. The thing with these Copic markers, they actually have a chisel tip on the other end of the marker, which I find the chisel tip's good for lettering. Gives you a nice solid line, but I like some of the effects I get with the brush stroke pen. See how it's making his helmet look like it's marbled a bit? And these days with candy paints and graphic vinyl graphics that you can get for helmets and other items, I like the effects this can create. Yeah, I'm not too worried about a little bit of colour in there, that's alright. Generally with the helmets you've got the polystyrene inner layer, which is the padding, and then you've got the plastic outer shell, which is the main structure. So that takes the impact. The polystyrene's meant to diffuse the blow, and then you have extra lining inside your helmet with little minor pads, which protects your noggin. So if you're drawing a helmet, take a look at it and get the idea of how it's built, and so there you go. But see how I'm getting that nice effect as it dries? It's just giving the helmet a bit of a marbled effect. I quite like that. Yeah. The other thing I'll do too is I'll do some shading using a cool grey, because you've got to create the shadows to give it a bit of depth. But we have the helmets up here with the ventilation holes, and usually pretty much the rider's hair is in behind there. So I'll include his hair, but it'll be a darker shade because the sunlight's not directly shining down on it. Now you might have seen some of the drawings where I'm doing a guy's hair. Well, let me show you a real quick tip with that. We'll use what's this one? It's gold, I think. Yeah, we'll use this gold and yellow. Alright, so I've got little tufts of his hair coming out from the helmet, and I'll use the brush stroke end, and to get that highlighted effect, which isn't going to really apply here because the helmet's covering most of it and the sunlight might not get onto his helmet. What I was doing in my other drawings was just gently flicking down to create the look of the hair. And I'd go with the direction that the hair was coming down in. Just gentle flicks. There's heaps of videos on YouTube with other artists who can do this really, really well and create really good hair effects. But where I want his hair to be darker, I'll just use a darker colour. And I'll do the exact same thing. I'll flick down into it, or flick up, depending where I'm going, to create the hair. So there's these little tufts of hair. Missing a tooth. There's a few riders out there like that. Old black tooth grin. Okay, so I've done a little bit of colouring in. Giving this bloke a bit of a waked out paint job, but that's alright. I want to talk about the eyes, and I've used 3 different colours for the eyes. And I like to use the darker to lighter colours under the eyes, so it adds a bit of the shading in the irises, and having the pupils blacked in. So you can see I've given him the old black tooth with his little tongue there. Now I'm going to start adding in some shadowing on his face. What I'm going to use for that is cool grey. Look at that, cool grey. Now you can get varying shades of grey in the Copic markers, but a trick I learned off quite a few artists on YouTube is the top of the eyeball just underneath the eyelid is going to be slightly in shadow, and the base of the eyeball, because it is a ball, it's round, the base of it is going to be in shadow. So I just like to go through, just add a light bit of shadow underneath the eye. Don't worry about trying to be perfect. It's a cartoon. It's meant to be fun, not meant to be perfect. Alright. That sort of gives him a little bit more of a sinister look. Well, more determined look. I might just go a little bit thinner. This is the beauty of a brush stroke pen, is you can lift the tip off, make it as thick as you want or as light as you want. Yeah, but if you want to get the eyeballs happening here, you can see the light source there coming in. So it's sort of shining down at the top from the front, but that means parts of his helmet are going to be in shade as well. So, in there. In there. And around there. Okay. And his hair's going to be in shade in there as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the shadow. It won't be as prominent there. And I might use the chisel tip just to get in there because it's a bit better. So that way his hair's all marked out in there as well. You know, so anywhere that's going to be in shadow, I'll just lightly use a cool grey, and I do have a even lighter cool grey, where I think the shadow shouldn't be as solid, but to really make his eyes pop out at you, yeah, that darker bit of grey just gives it that little bit of a sinister, check out what I'm up to sort of look. And even underneath the lip, top part of the teeth is going to be in shade. So stuff to think about that's going to be in shade. Underneath the lip, there'll be a little bit of shade there. Underneath the nose, there's a bit of shade. You know, you got to think about where your light's coming from and where it's going to impact on what's not in shadow and what is. Okay. There we go. There's my grubby little BMX rider. He's happy. He's been out hitting the skate park or something, doing his stunts.